Hey, it's Father Taylor here, and it's March 25th, and it's time for another Friday eBlast. A couple things that went on last week that were pretty significant. Thank you for, we had about 30 volunteers who came out to help us on Sunday afternoon as we hosted a very quickly put together, but very well run vigil for Ukraine. We had people who were doing setup. Carolyn was writing press releases. We had conversations with, finding those speakers from Maidan United and from the Ukraine Catholic Education Fund, searching those people out. We had connections, trying to just get everything together. Tables that got set up, chairs that went up, parking lot attendants, all the hospitality. It was not just a good event to have attended, but we got some comments back that were not directed to us originally, but came to us indirectly when some of the participants of the event said, wow, we really felt like we were loved at that event. And that's not the same reception we got even when we went to speak at other events. So that's fantastic. It was great also to see that every church in town, for the most part, was represented there. Father Stephen from St. Mary's had a prior engagement, so he couldn't be there. So all the members who attend a clergy association, so that's like 95% of the churches in town, they all showed up. They all rallied. You know what Sunday is like for a clergy person. So we had all kinds of help and all kinds of coming together and unity, and even an appearance from Senator Blumenthal. So we think some good was done that day. So thank you all for helping us to put that on. Coming up this week, tomorrow, that is Saturday morning, starting at 9, over by 11:30, is a class which may not come to mind as something like, oh, I was thinking about this, but maybe you should think about it. Membership in the Episcopal Church, actual membership and part of our community, is part of that is not just showing up on Sunday. That's a part of participation. Certainly giving to the church, that's part of our participation. Praying for our church, that's a kind of participation. But it's also means being an Episcopalian and means being received into the Episcopal Church if you've already been baptized and confirmed by in another denomination, or it may mean confirmation. So what we generally don't do, though, is ever ask, well, what's the difference between the Episcopal Church and every other church? How is the Episcopal Church different than being Roman Catholic, other than the feel of it? What's the difference between the way folks at Valley Baptist, which is a great church, what's the difference between the way they understand some things and we understand some things? Is there anything in our tradition, just even our tradition of spirituality, that makes us unique? And the answer to all those questions, of course, is yes. So tomorrow at 9 o'clock, we already have 13 people signed up, but tomorrow at 9 o'clock, you are welcome to come to a largely a little presentation, but lots of questions and answers on what does it mean to be an Episcopalian. And so if you are a person who's attended our church, maybe for a short time or a long time, and you would like to be an actual member of our church, you need to come to this class to see what you'd be signing on for. And by coming to this class, if you would like, we can have you arrange that you can be received into the Episcopal Church as a full member. So anyway, that's tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'm trying to figure out where to pick up some pastries and things. Carol's got the coffee covered. So when you come, you don't have to come in with coffee. We're going to have plenty of coffee, tea, decaf. We have water. It's going to be, if you've ever come to the mini retreats, I always try to make it fun and lots of hospitality there. So come on tomorrow, and that's at 9 o'clock. It would be helpful for me if you let me know. You can send me a text. You can just send me a text to my phone number. The reason, it just helps me plan which room am I using, which heat do I turn on, how much hospitality stuff do I get in advance. So that's why I need to know, okay? Coming up on Sunday, and I'm hoping, let me just check the weather here. I'm hoping that we're looking for some good weather on Sunday. and it looks great. Brisk, brisk, but great. Last week there was a great hike. A bunch of families that got together and had kids and people of all ages, and they did a hike during church as part of our building community. Uh, we're going to have to spend a lot of time coming up on the difference between what we remember in the past and how we build community for now and for our future. Um, One of the things I've been thinking about is I'm hearing all these stories about what it's like to re-enter life after 2 years of COVID. And to me, it reminds me of this. Do you ever remember when you were in school, maybe you were a third grader, and you got really sick and you came home early on Monday and you missed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You were sick the whole time. You missed 4 days of school, and then you had 2 days of weekend. And Monday, when you went back to school, it just felt weird. Like, oh, that's right, I go to school, and the kids on the bus yell and scream, and there's the teacher. And, oh my, it takes a while, even after 4 days of missing school, when you're making the comeback to school. Imagine 2 years. So we're all trying to come back and figure out how to do this. And yes, we're still listening to the reports about COVID, and we're always going to be instructive, and we're always going to play it more on the safe side than the let's throw the dice side. But we're coming back, and I just want to encourage you, if you have been at home, to consider coming back so we see you in person. This week will be the first time that we really officially offer a kind of coffee hour. You remember the days when we used to go upstairs and there was a certain kind of spread of food and stuff, and people spread out and we all kind of gathered. Yeah, it's a little more subdued because of COVID, but we will be doing some coffee hour. And here's the other piece I want to tell you about Sunday if you come to church. I think you should treasure everybody you see. And maybe you've been back and you see these same mugs all the time, but look, it is a treasure to be able to meet in person and worship together. So treasure the people you know and meet the people you don't know. This is how we begin building community. So that's Sunday. Coming up next Tuesday, we will have another community conversations that starts at 6:30. And you can see our last week's community conversations, and that was with Lisa Gray. What a powerful hour. She told her story, the story of that led her to developing the program called A Place for Jordan, which involves tragically the death of her son due to addiction. Nice kid, everything was going good, typical kind of Simsbury kid, but some other things led, and it's the way that addictions work within us. I don't know about you, but I grew up in a family with dealing with addictions, and I've got lots of friends who deal with addictions. And I would say by and large, they're all really good people. It's not like they were bad people looking to do bad things. Addiction is basically a more modern, the tendency toward addiction and the hold of addiction is a modern way of using this thing, which we would call not sins, as in things you do that are wrong, but the aspect of sin within us, this thing that works within us. Paul says in Romans chapter 7, here's what it's like. The very things I say I'm never going to do again, I do. And the things I say I really want to start doing, I don't. And he said, if I have this kind of a conflict within me all the time, and where I want to do the right thing, but I end up doing the wrong thing, what is that? That is the definition of sin. Sin isn't just the like wrong doing before God or offending God's holiness. That's kind of that's a far limited and skewed answer. Sin, our rebellion, that is to say, we would rather to run our own lives as opposed to live in the grace of God, which is still the way we operate. Even after finding Jesus, we still have to contend with it. That is the beginning of the thing that broke off life as God intended it. In Genesis chapter 1, you remember, as he makes every day, he calls every one of them good. But to turn the page, and all of a sudden, all that good gets broken. And it has to do with our choice, the choice we make out of the gift of free will, the choice we make to say, I'll be the one who determines right and wrong in my life. Thank you so much. That is not just the issue of like our distance from God, but it's also the source of the break of everything. It's why our bodies wear out. It's why people get sick. It's why accidents happen. It's why nations war against nations. It is the source. It is the cause within. It's the virus that affects everything. And so when we think about addictions and people with addictions, that's just another way that the same thing in us comes out in other people. So very powerful time that she spent, and it left with a really big question. What would it be like to be a church community where someone dealing with an addiction or a loved one with an addiction could come and feel welcomed? Yes, there are boundaries. Of course, we have to have, everybody has boundaries. But on the other hand, we can welcome people. We can welcome people in, and that's how they find healing, not by themselves, but healing around addictions is always found in community. Again, the importance of community. So anyway, so I'm not going to talk any more about that, at least for now. But coming up next week, we have another great speaker who should be of interest to you, and that's the principal of Starfield School, Steve Madison. So, you know, Steve and our church, over since 2018, we have continued to grow in our relationship and how we support one another. And so I'm going to be asking Steve lots of questions about what does he see in the wider community? What's it like coming back after COVID? Well, how do you see the effect of COVID and what's happening in the world today on kids at Tarrytown School? And where else can we be a community of support for not just Tarrytown School, but that represents all the young kids in Tarrytown. How can we be a support to that community? So that's coming up next Tuesday. All right, I took more of my time than I needed to, give you a little preaching thing about addictions, sin, and community. I think that's potentially one of our greatest gifts to our community. But that's it for now. So God bless you. Hopefully we'll see you either Saturday morning at 9, Sunday at 8, Sunday at 9:45. If you're going on the hike, you meet down at the lower parking lot, and then they'll go off together. And don't forget about next Tuesday. All right, so God bless you guys.